Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We left you in our last episode on a desperate search for the great one, Denali. But as the day wore on, it appeared that we would be part of the 70% of visitors who never have the opportunity to see Denali Summit. The group decided that it would be nice to at least see the visitor center in the national park, but the time was getting late and we had a lot of dramatic mileage still to cover.
All right, after hauling up the Parks Highway and trying to get to the visitor center at Denali before it closed, we had to wait for bridges being constructed. We had to wait for roads getting painted. We finally made it and did it to the visitor center. Yeah! All right, we made it to Denali National Park.
Let's go find camp and have a beer.
I think that's a great idea. Let's go find a place to sleep.
And off we went, looking for our next remote campsite. When we came to this water crossing, we were a little cautious after our experience on the Petersville Road earlier in the day. Richard and Linda went first, while Debbie and I hung back with the forerunner since we had the only winch in the group. We hit some pretty deep hidden holes on the Petersville Road, so Richard decided to stay to the right where at least we could see that there was ground. But as you can see here, the right side was pretty muddy. Jeff and Farah decided to stay out of the mud and give it a go on the left-hand side. Well, no problems there, so we decided to follow Jeff and Farah's path. Turned out all that concern was for naught. The water was probably 6 inches deep and rocky on the bottom. But that's how being out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska can play with your mind. Now it's getting late and it's time to find a place to camp. Recapping the second part of the day, we were on our search for Denali. We left Talkeetna and worked our way up to a campsite just north of Healy, which happened to have a little surprise. It wasn't a very big camp, really just a widening in the road, but it did have a great view. We stayed up till almost 2 o'clock in the morning watching sunset, but that was not the highlight of the night.
So what'd you think of that last night?
It was epic. They say only about 10% of people who come to visit Denali actually get to see Denali's peak. And last night, we got to see its peak.
Yeah, we saw its peak. The clouds all, we were just sitting here around the campfire, remember?
Yep.
I think, and you said,
Like, is that Denali?
Is that Denali out there? And so we were all like, what? Really? And then it was, yeah, it's Denali.
Yeah.
You could see the whole thing.
And it's actually right over our shoulders,
Yeah,
but
right
now,
out there.
It's again all covered in
All
clouds.
covered in clouds.
So I think we were the lucky few that actually got to see Denali.
And at first it was kind of hazy, and then the haze went away.
Yep.
And then it got really sharp and crisp.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable.
That, and then the sun started dipping down below the horizon just a tad, but it gave pink and orange hues to the summit. It was incredible.
It was amazing. All on the north face and the northwest face of Denali. It was absolutely.
Stoked on the positive energy from hitting one of our main goals of this Alaska trip, we headed out east of Healy to explore the backcountry out in that area. Unfortunately, this little adventure wasn't going to end up quite as well. We started off by visiting a secret campsite of Craig and Brooks from Alaska Overlander. With a commanding view, it's a spectacular campsite, as long as the wind's not blowing.
Okay, we are here at the Alaska Overlander epic campsite, but we can't tell you where it is. What do you think?
One of those things that you just kind of look around and you see the majestic beauty of the Alaskan landscape, and then you got the beautiful river behind you, and the only bad part about it is that the wind's blowing at a pretty good clip right now. But
one of Debbie's favorite expressions is everything happens for a reason. And we thought about coming up here last night, but we knew it was going to be really windy. So instead, we ended up driving out to where we camped last night, and lo and behold, we ended up with the more than epic view of Denali. This is a great spot when it's not windy.
After visiting the campsite, we drove down to a slightly more wind-protected area, had lunch, and discussed where we wanted to end up camping for the night. On the map, we saw what might be an interesting loop trail to explore. We decided to give that a go before heading down the road to our next camp. At times, the price for going down this trail required some serious paint donation, as the vegetation got pretty narrow. We did run into one unexpected obstacle, and I'm not sure he had any idea what to make of us. Say what you want about this trail, but we're in Alaska, and you're still going to end up with some amazing backdrops to look at. Everything seemed to be going along great. The trail was pleasant, the scenery was nice, and then all of a sudden, Richard comes to a complete stop. Turns out the road was washed out on the driver's side, and we had to do some botanical work to widen the road on the passenger side. After getting the brush cleared away on the passenger side, we were able to move on ahead and bypassed the washout on the driver's side of the vehicles. But just as we got around that obstacle, it became game over for this trail. The trail had been completely washed out by flooding, and we weren't going any further. Time to turn around and head down the road and look for tonight's camp. We went south out of Healy down to the town of Caldwell, where we began one of the most incredible drives in all of North America, the Denali Highway. The Denali Highway is 134 miles of road that goes right through the heart of Alaska, following the Alaska Range. About 120 miles of this road are unpaved.
Well, we're here at the Brushkana Creek Campground. It's been a really lovely night. There was rain started early in the morning and lasted until around, 6:30, 7 a.m. But it was light. It wasn't really a problem. And so we packed up everything and we're getting ready to continue on the Denali Highway. Let's go look at the creek though. This is, to us in California, this would be like a river. But here they call it a creek. Here's what's really neat about Alaska and the Yukon is that they have these day use areas where you can sit and be covered and get out of the elements, and they have these really big wood burning stoves, which is really nice, so you can sit inside, feel comfortable, but still see outside to all the elements. So I want you to see what that looks like. Let's go take a look. So sometimes there are these big barrel style. This one's just open, but it's so neat that you can just have a fire in here and sit in here at the picnic table. And then when we turn around, you can see this incredible view that you have. And it's just beautiful.
We left camp as quickly as possible this morning and continued our way along the breathtaking Denali Highway. We knew we had a long, potentially treacherous, and definitely adventurous day ahead of us. We were after another major goal for the trip, Roosevelt Lake. Roosevelt Lake is found at the end of roughly a 17-mile trail. The majority of the trail follows Valdes Creek. That means we will be driving 1,600 feet up in elevation in a drainage in the early part of June after a winter of heavy snow. We knew our chances for success this early into the summer season would be slim, and we might even be turned around early due to wet, muddy marshes that might be found along the way. Who knows? We might just spend a good part of the day getting stuck and unstuck. We knew, however, that the view, should we make it all the way, would be worth more than all the effort it would take to get there. Shortly after the Denali Highway crosses the Susitna River, we take a turnoff onto the Valdes Creek Mine Road, and it doesn't take long before we come to our first obstacle of the day. Windy Creek was flowing fast with water from snow melt and some recent rains, and it was time to get out of the vehicle and have a look before we ventured into it. In fact, we decided to have a brief driver's meeting. Jeff said the water didn't seem too cold to cross. Jeff, being the man of action that he is, had enough of the talk, and before we knew it, he was diving into the water. Well, that wasn't so bad, so let's give it a go and pull the trailer through this thing. Problems there, so let's get going and see what's waiting for us farther down the road. It didn't take much of an increase in elevation before we started seeing snow along the side of the road. Came across a meadow where a cow and calf moose were enjoying the fresh growth of the springtime in Alaska. Looks like the road's going to lead us down into some of that wet terrain we were concerned about at the beginning of the day. The road started off dry enough, but with each passing mile, it got just a little bit wetter, and a little bit wetter, and a little bit wetter. The stream crossings started getting more frequent. Not a big deal, but you never know when the next one's going to be just a little too deep. Just when you think you're in the middle of nowhere, there's a road sign. As the road became muddier and the snow patches more frequent, tire tread marks were easier to see in the road. But the tire marks were really more from side-by-sides rather than full-size vehicles. We hadn't seen many signs of full-size vehicles making their way up this part of the road. More frequently, the road was getting covered with snow and the ground was getting rockier. We decided to stop at a nice place and have lunch and assess the situation. I sent the drone ahead to do a little recon on the trail, see what was up ahead. There really wasn't a lot of trail to be seen around here, but with all the epic scenery around us, I decided to send the drone ahead and have a look around. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when our next video is out, and hit that thumbs up so that YouTube knows to suggest it to other people as well. After reviewing the drone footage and looking around it, It was pretty obvious we weren't going to be camping in this area. It was just too wet and marshy, might even turn to ice overnight. So we decided to drop the trailer and leave our home behind to give us a little bit more maneuverability in what could be some sketchy terrain up ahead. finally made it to the mostly frozen Tennis Lake, out of which drains Roosevelt Creek. This should be our last water crossing before we get to Roosevelt Lake, which is about 3/4 of a mile away. What do you know? The snow's pretty deep over there. I gave Jeff a ride over so he could look at things firsthand. He could see what was going on from the outside and have a look at some of the conditions there on the ground, maybe figure out a way we can get through this thing. He checked out the snow and the ground conditions and took a little walk to see what was up ahead. It didn't look very promising.
Get up this?
I can't get up.
Well, I was going to say, the only other way is like if you back up, you toss the powers back and forth, crush it down, crush it down, crush it down, crush it back and forth, and see if you can get better traction. That's what good.
Right?
Yeah, more right. Get straight. Stop. Okay, now come back my way. Okay, now go. It's just too deep. Alright, hold on a second, let me jump on. Yeah, it's just too deep. We tried. Come back next week, yeah. Thanks for the ride.
Well, after that frustrating attempt to cross the creek and then get up the deep snowpack, we had to stop. I tried everything. Rear locker, A-track, crawl control, you name it, I threw it at it. Couldn't get up. So we're not gonna make it to Roosevelt Lake, but at least God, we're so close too. So close. But we're at Lee Lake, which is beautiful, and all the scenery around here is absolutely beautiful. So not bad. But still, it hurts to get denied.
Yep, it was still just a little too close to winter. Probably another week or two, and we would have made it through. At least we have something to look forward to the next time we come back to Alaska. We turned around, picked up our trailer where we left it at lunch, and made our way back down the road. We'd seen a couple of good campsites on the other side of all the water crossings, so we wouldn't have to worry about getting over them in the morning. We found a nice spot to set up camp and settled in for the night. It was a long day. And as you'll see, tomorrow's going to be another long and exciting day too, and we look forward to having you join us right here on Adventure Beyond 60.